happen. Welcome back to Unsigned Berlin. This is the first episode of season 3. So we've done 40 episodes. This is 41. I'm talking with Ollá and Diazno.
Yeah, thanks for
having us.
Thanks for coming. Talking about a little bit about your new single, Forever and a Day. And we'll start with a little snippet of that.
I love you, and the morning sun wakes to adorn you. You're my reason, the song of my heart, forever and a day. You tease me,
and that was Forever and a Day. For the songwriting for that, it's very... First of all, the emphasis is largely on the songwriting. It's not like, especially with a lot of, hip hop or rock stuff where it's like the sound is what's most important. Mm-hmm. And it's a love letter, and it obviously very much focuses on the positive aspects of love, where it's like, especially if it's a new thing or anything like that. Is it the positive side of emotions in life and everything that you enjoy writing about? Or is it more love as a concept and you want to explore different facets of that?
I think it was definitely about the positives when it came to writing Forever and a Day, because we've been together for a long time, and I just sat one day and started thinking about just how far we've come, and I think that was where like Forever and a Day was birthed. Yeah. And then Diazno joined on the writing, and I don't know where he wrote from, but it was definitely the positives for me.
Yeah,
is that the same?
Yeah, I mean, usually when I write like about myself, it tends to be more of on the positives of love. Mm-hmm. And I find that when I do sessions with other people, it's on the negatives. It's always heartbreak songs, which is this weird dynamic I hadn't thought about until you asked that question. Mm-hmm. But Ola started writing the song, and she's just like, "Oh, I have this new song. It's not finished yet, but would you like to hear it?" And I heard the melody and I heard the lyrics, and I was just like, "Okay, that is a song. Just keep it in mind." And it was in my head for like weeks or months. I can't remember how long. And then, I think once she's already started, I can't like come in with a second verse that's on the other side,
yeah.
So it was kind of her idea to do the positives, but it was something that just felt natural. Like even the writing just like happened in one sitting. It wasn't we're going to do this and we're going to come back. So it's just like, okay, we're doing this song. Let's finish writing it, and did the demo and then went from there.
Yeah. What did that process look like in terms of writing and just recording straight in, or writing like on a piece of paper with a guitar and then demo, then production?
Yeah, it's like I said, she'd already started writing it. So she had I think you had the chorus already.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I had the chorus and then I had some parts of the verse.
Yeah. So for me, because I usually, on her stuff, I usually come in somewhere in the middle after there's an idea. So that's also usually helpful for speeding up the process. So it's not like we're thinking, where's the song going? It's like, Claire, I already see it. So most of that already was predetermined on my end. And so it was just like, oh, it's missing a second verse. It's missing parts of the first verse. Yeah. I think I wrote it on a train. Right. Like the rest of it, I was just like, sometimes I just keep notes on my phone, and when I'm on the train, I just like scroll through, and like, oh, this is unfinished, and then so it was pretty much that I had the melody in my head, and it was just write the additional text, and then she gets an alert on her phone, like the Esther's working, so it's a bit disjointed, like especially on that song. I don't think we sat together in a room to finish the song, right? But that only worked because there was already an idea. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't like the traditional songwriting session where, we like come together.
And you guys have been collaborating like on things for a long time. So it's kind of like easier to get over that boundary of space.
Yeah.
There's also a difference, I feel like, between the male part and the female part, where the male part was more about like the excitement, expectations and all of that. And then the female part, it was more like it's focused on like momentary emotions. Was that a conscious thing of like, we want to get different parts of this, or it's just a perspective? Do you think it's based on gender at all? Like a perspective like that, or if it's just a personal thing?
I think it's just really personal. I don't know if it's gender based, but I think just in the way like I talk about life and the way Diazno talks about life, I think that's like what really played out in the song. because I'm more the momentary person and what happens now and,
Right.
how I'm feeling. And Diazno is always more reflective of the past to the future. And yeah, so I think
Interesting thing is she wrote my verse or most of my verse and I wrote her verse.
yeah, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's what
Yeah.
people will not realize. Like she wrote
Yeah.
my verse and I wrote her verse.
Yeah, that's true.
cool.
And I think because when I started writing the song, I always wanted Diazno to be on the song with me. And so I wrote the verse in mind. Like I wrote the verse with Diazno in mind. And yeah. And so when I finally brought up the idea, because I kept thinking, how am I going to get him to come on the song? And then I just felt like if I write something that he would write, maybe he would want to come on. And it worked. So yeah.
So it wasn't like the typical, like, I don't even think it was a duet. I don't know if she thought about a duet. She just said, oh, there's this song. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's listen to it. And I heard it and I was just like, this would be perfect for a duet. Right. It was like that. It's not like something we like, oh, let's sit and write a duet. Like we've always talked about doing a song together. It's never happened. And people who know us together have always asked like, why don't you have a song together? And I was just like, yeah, when it happens, it happens. And so it just felt really natural. And then I listened to the verse and like just had it on my phone. And when I was just writing in that moment, I was thinking more about her and what she would want to feel in that sense. So it's like put yourself in the other person's shoes and write. And so that was, I remember that day when I wrote the second verse on the train. And I was thinking a lot about like, what are the things she's expressed to me that she would want to have or that she enjoys or something. So it's like really in her mindset writing that verse. And it felt like she was also writing in like doing the opposite for me.
That's so cool. It feels like it maybe that it feels like maybe like it means a little more, or it's just like an interesting thing of it where it feels really really close. Did you guys have any concerns working together in terms of having to do all the business stuff, having to do tours and bookings and all of that, and then it being a relationship as well? And you're like, people say not to do this, but everyone wants to anyway.
You're the go.
I think it's easy when everyone's roles are clearly defined. I think we live in a world where we're trying to like, oh, don't put roles on stuff. Yes, I see how that can be useful. But I think it's just easier when everyone kind of knows what they're doing and everyone can stay in their lane. So like my role in the Ollá machine is clearly defined. She's the star, and usually if she just decides this is where it's going, my job usually is to say, okay, how can we get there best? And if I have concerns, hey, I have concerns about this. Her job is to listen to me as someone who's given an informed opinion. But ultimately it's her name on the door. So if she says yes, yes. And if she says no, I mean, I can't force her to do anything she doesn't want to do. Like, I think we should play this show. I don't think we should play this show. If she wants to play it, we'll probably show up. And if I'm like, I think we should play this show, and she's like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I mean, I can't sing in her voice. Like they want her for a reason. So I think it's been clearly defined, but then there's also like this loving way, like we go through things. I think it's just understanding like, okay, this person has my best interests. And the same thing with her, myself. Like usually if I got a booking, even if it was not for both of us, I would be like, hey, this person's booked me to do this. And if she has concerns, she could always voice them out. So I think it's just about listening to one another. And it's not a perfect process. There's going to be disagreements, but I just think that, as long as everyone's willing to listen and adjust and listen and adjust. And
definitely.
sometimes we have like 2-3 discussions on the same topic, so.
Which is kind of the ideal for a working, like a relationship with a producer or whatever, or any relationship anyway, where it's like, this is something you need. And maybe it's nice that it's like, it's something you thought you maybe wouldn't think about if it were just like a new person you're meeting for the first time in the studio. So maybe it sets nice boundaries as well for that, where you're like being conscious. Don't know. And with songwriting, a lot of it is about, well, by definition, it's about emotions and largely about mental health because it's so attached to that. Moving to Germany, do you feel like there's a difference in the cultures from here or back home, where in Lagos, where it lets you access different parts of your personality for songwriting?
I think with songwriting and just with moving to Berlin, I don't know. I know that I'm definitely a different songwriter now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if it was the move. Maybe it was the move. But I think I've also just sort of grown as a person, and I think definitely like coming to Berlin was, yeah, it was a tough decision.
Mm-hmm.
But that I would agree with the question in the sense like I feel like, yeah, there were things that moving really helped me with, like especially with songwriting and just being exposed to a different kind of, also different kind of music, because I got here and I just went to a few shows, I listened to a few songwriters, and I'm like, okay, I think I want to, you know, I think I want to mature in my songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but I also still love the songs I wrote back home a lot. So I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope I did. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it does. I think there there is definitely like my songwriting. I've been here for 7 years, so most of the songs you hear at a concert, if you came to a Diazno concert, were written in Berlin. And I think Berlin has definitely shaped what I do musically. I think like Lagos was very much like my roots and grounding, especially in terms of like musicality, but in terms of just like expressing myself like lyrically, it's definitely changed. I think it's matured um a lot more since I came to Berlin. Also musically, like there's just I've picked up a different appreciation for instrumentation and other stuff and just like melodies.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say like it wouldn't have happened in Lagos, but Berlin is just where it happens. So
Would have happened differently.
it probably would have
Yeah.
happened differently. So I'm not saying it's cause. It's just it may be more correlation than cause, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like when you go back and visit, there's ideas that come where you're like, this couldn't have happened in Berlin, either because I feel like I'm back where I grew up, or because it's like this is a different culture, so the ideas that it fosters in me are different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely, because I feel like writing here, there I think songwriting, I mean for me, I don't know about you guys know, but for me, like I write a lot about experiences, and the like I pick up like inspiration from the things around me. So definitely if I went back home, when I do go back home, actually I want to just take some time to write, because I know that there's a different kind of like stimulation that I'm gonna get just in songwriting, because there's just other things that would inspire me, just someone on the street or something I see, or and Berlin and Lagos are really different places.
Very.
There's a lot of, so when you're in Lagos, you're definitely not thinking of the things you will be thinking about in Berlin. It's just it's just really different. So I think definitely.
Yeah, like I think in terms of like just what you would experience on a regular day, there's a song that's called Pada, which is not released, but eventually, if it ever gets released, and you listen to the song, it could only have come from experiences in Lagos. So that song was birthed out of like a very Nigerian experience. So in terms of like topics, I think it does affect. I do write a lot of very personal songs. Like a lot of the stuff I release is very, very personal. So I don't know that it's that much distinct. Maybe in terms of instrumentation or the people who are around, it might be slightly different in terms of just like, okay, I want to have this instrument because I know someone who can play it.
True.
So like my instrument choices have definitely changed. Because of like Berlin and who's here, but obviously you still have friends who could like record and send you stems. And also like for me, I've always collaborated. So there's like Diazno, the artist that we're working on is still kind of at this like infancy.
Yeah.
And then there's the guy who's like working as a guitarist or a music producer or whatever. And for that, it's like always collaborated with other people. And that's like a really nice outlet for stuff I know cannot go under. I don't want to say cannot, but just like right now would not go under like the Diazno artist name. So there's always been that. And I think the world has got smaller in terms of just like influences, just like with Spotify and everything. I still feel like I'm very influenced by what's happening back home. These are my friends. There's Instagram. I'm still seeing what they're working on, what they're posting, and I'm thinking, oh, that's dope. And then I start working on it, or I'm still getting calls like, hey, do you want to do this together? And so it's a bit of both worlds. I think I'm still being influenced by both worlds. I would say that.
Now that you're performing some of your own songs as Diazno the artist versus performing on stage for other people's songs, do you feel like there's a different energy you have to bring to the stage? Are you more stressed? For me, I'm more stressed playing for other people because then I'm like, if I fuck up, then I fuck up someone else's thing. If it's my own, then it's just my own. Like, it doesn't matter so much.
It's the other way for me.
Oh.
This should probably get me in trouble. They're probably going to sack me, like fire me after this.
Well, you're more in the background for other people's things. So if you mess up, then it's not like...
It just feels like it's not my name on the door. I think that's just it. It's just like, whoever I play for, if the concert is bad, it's not my name. Kind of, I do try to bring a certain level of professionalism to everything I do.
Of course,
But I feel like I have a bit more pressure to deliver on like my projects, because I think it's for me, it's a bit more long term. So I have to think a bit more about everything. With working for other people, it's just very much tell me when to show up, what to wear,
True.
what songs we're playing. Like, so many decisions are taken out of my hands. I usually will just get a brief, either via email or WhatsApp. This is what we're doing. And it's very, very easy to align myself or just be like, hey, sorry, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah, that makes
Whereas
sense.
with like Diazno, the artist, is like a lot of conversation I'm involved and in and with, and it's just like, I don't think of how my decisions on stage affect the entire branding thing. I just go and do my job and get paid and have fun. But with like playing for other people, for like myself, with doing my own stuff, there's just so much that goes into it, and I'm thinking, I'm constantly running scripts. Was this joke appropriate for the show? Do I get cancelled after this? Am I talking too much? Are they having a great time? Or you see someone get up and walk, you're doing an acoustic set, and then someone gets up and leaves. Oh, did they not like the song? Is there something I'm doing wrong? If I was playing guitars for someone, I'm just super chill. It's like, it's obviously not something I did. I don't even have a microphone right now, So I think there's definitely more pressure with
your own,
with my own stuff.
Where you're the front. With something like, you were recently December last year in your own colors.
Yeah, it was a lot. It's not last year. It's actually a few.
I don't know. I saw the post was some number of weeks ago, and I was like, no, it's not true. Anyway, at some point you were. And do you feel like a situation like that where you're removed from the crowd, but the crowd is so much bigger? Or somewhere like, I think I saw you were in Das Gift on your Instagram story or something. Yeah. Recently, where like, if someone's not enjoying it, you see their face because they're right there. Which of those do you enjoy more, do you think? Both of you as well, with that kind of scale.
Do you want to go first?
I definitely enjoy like the smaller rooms. Because I don't think I've really had that experience where someone stand up, where someone leaves the room basically. But then I just prefer to have like this smaller audience where, like, sort of feel, we what's the word
Connect.
now? Yeah, there's like a level of connection that I know that I don't get in like a big room, So let's say like a Das Gift, 200, 300 people. But I think I've like played at bigger venues where it's just, it's nice. The people will come and say it's great, but while I'm on stage, I don't feel that connection with the crowd. And for me, that's really important with my music. So
yeah, it's like the like Colors was really interesting. Like, I know the format, like it's something I've watched performances on Colors, and when I got the call, hey, do you want to do Colors? It's just like, okay, never really like thought about playing with like someone like Amare. Like, she was doing I do connect with her music in terms of just like it being a bit Afro influenced, and it's very, very, I'd say it's more urban than what I would do or what I was doing at that point in time. And then she wants to do a song that's very dancey, I would say, but she wants to do it with just guitars and wants us to come up with a new arrangement. And I'm just like, okay, what if, like, I heard the original song, like we worked on 2 songs for that performance, and I heard them and I'm like, okay, if we're going to make this work, it just has to be something totally different. Like, I can't try and make it feel as dancey we just have to go in a different direction. Will she like the idea? Pitch the idea to her and she liked it. The question is, like, would the rest of the world like it? Because they've heard the original. The original song had been out for about a year or something. And it was just like, so for that, it's like the delayed feedback is really hard because by the time it's out, there's nothing I can do about it. Yeah. So it was like, I was literally, when I got the message like, hey, the song is going to be premiered on this day, I was literally losing my mind because it's like, Nigerians will roast you. Ghanaians will roast you if they don't like it. It's just like, if they don't like it, they'll let you know. Yeah. And so it's like, I can't delete even the comments, it's like posted on Colors, it's there. They're just like, if they hate me as a guitarist, it's done. My career is probably over before it starts. So that's one level of like, you're very removed from responsibility. And that's really hard to deal with as a person if you're like a control freak or if you care about your image. So, but thankfully it went well. The comments were really pleasant and everyone was happy after that. And then there's like doing a big show. I actually just did one like last week. Which is interesting because I just looked out and I just saw so many people. I'm just like, bruh, I can't make any mistakes. It was like probably the biggest like size-wise that I had done. It's great. I was obviously like doing sideman stuff like keys, guitars. So it's not necessarily like I'm looking at them for feedback, but it's nice to see like, okay, everyone's having a great time when you're playing. But I think I really love like those crowd work moments is what I would call them, where I can just talk to people during my set. I think it's a lot harder when there's like 20,000 people in front of you. And I think it's harder when it's like a big production where everything's like super on time. I like this where it just feels like, even though we just met, we're friends and we can just chill and talk and like, hey, I wrote the song. And we just like, I just see someone, a friend of mine, like, just walk in and I'm like able to say hi. I would not do that on the festival stage. Maybe I would do it. I'm probably the kind of person who would, but it's like with festivals, it's a bit harder. You're really focused on everything that's happening. There's there's in-ears, there's just so much that's happening and you tend to I wouldn't say you tend to enjoy it less, but you're just running more scripts in your head. Whereas when you're doing like a desk gift or like a small club, you just have my guitar and all I have to worry about is my guitar and my vocals. So that's the difference for me. But I do enjoy both of them. It just gives me different things or different levels of satisfaction.
Thinking about public image, there's when you're researching how to do music marketing and everything, the idea, especially recently, I feel like with social media, that you should be also talking about other things that are like, this is what else I'm interested in. And for me, that's a struggle because it's like, honestly, I don't do a lot apart from music. Is there anything for you guys that you are really passionate about that you want to talk about, but dealing with social media is a whole thing and like just haven't had the opportunity yet?
Arsenal. I love football. I just got so into football these days and it's a side I want to show more. I just don't know. I guess sometimes I'm lazy but I'm like a huge Arsenal supporter. I wouldn't say I'm a fan yet and anything. I haven't been to the Emirates Stadium yet. But I literally move my schedule around to be there when Arsenal is playing. Once I had my laptop open during sound check. I kid you not. It was just a match we had to win, and I was just like, okay, this sound check is not going to go well. Huh?
Did you win?
We won, okay. And I was everyone was happy.
Worth it.
It was worth it. Like the mood change was like, okay, cool, it's good. It's good. We let you watch the match. So I'm really passionate about football. That's a bit trivial, but it's something I really love. Obviously, like faith is like a huge component of everything I do. That's something I hope to talk about more and just like dissect and obviously right place, right time. But always down to talk about faith and just get a bit more understanding, learn where people are coming from. Maybe we can just bounce ideas off each other
Mm-hmm.
in a respectful way. I think mental health is something that's becoming a bigger deal. Like there's so many reasons, and I know everyone's talking about mental health, but it's not something that I've really been affected by so much. I had one phase around 2018 where, looking back now, I was like, okay, that was probably like the worst time of my life.
Right.
But it was just, I was dealing with a lot of stress and not really realizing that I was that stressed. I was just functional and all.
You're also a couple years into having done a big move,
Yeah,
which is a
exactly.
rough time.
Yeah, I think it's a Berlin thing because like my first set of friends had just left. So it's like how Berlin moves in like 3-year cycles.
Yeah.
And so you meet people, and in 3 years your friend group usually would change. And so all the people around me had just left, and I didn't realize how big of an impact that had on me. So it's like, whereas in like I lived like the first like 20 plus years in Nigeria, and I had the same set of friends, perhaps some of them went for school.
Yeah.
But we still stay like close-knit together, and then people like who are super close to you move to Australia, and there's a 9-hour difference and you can't really speak, and that was really difficult. So, but I think mental health is something that's becoming a big topic, and it's something I find myself like researching a bit more into, like what's happening, how can I help people, because I just have a lot of people around me who are dealing with it. And I just see the power of just having a friend who's there for you, and just going on stage and someone who's there is like, hey, I see you, and all of that, and just like everyone supporting one another. Because I feel like it's a collective battle more and more these days, because it's like I think everyone is either going through it, has gone through it, or knows someone who's going through it. So I think those are the things for me.
It's also a tricky thing to talk about, because I think regardless what phase you're at of mental health, whether you're really struggling or whether you kind of have had that and are still struggling, or you've had that and you have kind of figured out what works for you, you still don't feel qualified to talk about it, because you're like, oh, someone else is struggling.
Everyone's
worse.
story is different. It's very, very different. So sometimes all I can just do is just be like, hey, I see you, and I'm there. And if you ever need something, just let me know, and I'll try my best to do, because everyone's struggle is different. Everyone's recovery time is different. It's just people relapse also. It's just, it's such a hard thing. I just think like all I can just be is like, hey, I see you. I'm there for you if you ever need something, and just start that communication, put it out there, because I think sometimes people are scared to reach out, because it's just a lot of people don't want to feel like they're a burden on other people. And so they don't speak up. I'm just like, hey, if you're ever going through something like this, like I'm here for you. Just write me, send me a message. Like whatever I'm doing, I'll drop it and reach out. You know,
it's nice. It's beautiful. What about you?
I think for me it's definitely not football, even though
I scrolled through your Twitter going back just to do research, and there were a couple of football like retweets, and I thought maybe you were the football fan.
Me.
That was you on that
was me influencing.
No, so the whole football thing, it's a conversation for another day. But when I was like younger, like I used to love football, and then I at some point stopped loving football. And then I met this guy who told me he didn't watch football
because Arsenal was losing. Like, you're from the UK,
and at the time,
I don't really follow it, but
at the time
they were bad.
Yeah, but at the time I was excited. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm so glad I'm not gonna, be with someone who wants to leave me to watch a football match. Anyways, we get married, and it's the COVID lockdown, and this guy is watching football. I'm losing my mind. But anyways, just to keep the peace in the marriage, it was just wise to start to engage myself in the game, because I felt like if he likes it so much, maybe I should try. But I think also because Diazno is very involved in the things I love, and I'm like, I don't think it should be a deal breaker that he's gonna do this for me, and I'm not willing to do it for him. And now I actually do love football, but not like it's not a passion project. It's just I would watch an Arsenal match, but I wouldn't want to watch a Chelsea match. Or so if it's not Arsenal playing, count me out. But if it's Arsenal, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I think other things I'm passionate about, definitely my faith. It's like Diazno said, honestly, it's definitely what we've built. Like it's what we've built our lives on and around. And mental health is a very big deal for me, because I had a very terrible episode, and I had people to carry me during that time. And it's definitely something that I want to talk about more with my music. I have a few songs, but it's something that in maybe the next few years, I really want to talk more about it. Because I know like Diazno said, there's definitely the feeling like, oh, I'm not qualified enough. And it's crazy because I felt that way until very recently, because I had this really bad experience and, it was terrible. And I came out of it, but I still didn't feel, like, oh, it's something I should talk about. There was just this stigma. Nobody put it on me. It wasn't like somebody said something to me, but just mentally, I just, I don't want to talk about it. But recently I realized like, wow, I just looked back on, the season of my life and just how my mom carried me in that season. And just because I wasn't willing to talk to other people, but she was just there and she just knew. And I feel like sometimes, people go through these things, but to be honest, if my mom wasn't there, I would never have spoken to anyone about it, and it probably would have killed me, And so just the fact that my mom was there, and then after the process, I realized that there were other people who would have been there for me, but I never actually gave them a chance. And by the time I started to open up, I realized like, oh my, I actually needed these people at the time, and even through the healing process, they were also there for me. And so I think it's just so important that people realize, like how important they are to other people, because sometimes we realize these things too late, and it's not even just about like the end of the end, but it's also like in just the way we walk out of relationships and just the way we handle people, because we don't realize how important we are to them. So this is definitely something that I want to, push more with my music and talk about. And definitely, I know for sure, like I think I'm a funny person. Diazno,
It's funny that you think that.
I can be really entertaining. Diazno, really? I know I can.
I feel like that's a trick question. It's like I won't come out of this a winner.
But I know I can be really entertaining. So it's something I also want to I feel like I look too serious on social media. I remember I was going to post something one day and I was showing Diazno the post, and it's like, but you're not this serious in real life. So why are you posting? Why is it so serious? And it was like, hey, let people see like this really chill, funny, part of you. And so that's also something that I'm really passionate about, to really show like the other sides of myself, even as a singer and, as a person in general.
It's also scary to put online because it's like, it's a different... People who enjoy your music maybe have a different taste to people who enjoy who you are. And then it's like, if people don't like this, I feel like it's more of an attack on me.
You get it. So that's definitely a problem. But I mean, we'll see.
I also feel like it's got a lot harder to decide what should go on your social media. I just think like right now, I think it's just gone beyond like everyone having different tastes, but it just feels like someone having a different opinion oftentimes can feel like an attack on. I could just find something funny or something silly. Like I'm fine with everybody roasting anything. I guess I'm that kind of person where it's just like, I mean, it's not going to change anything. Even like my faith has just been roasted several times. Sometimes I see the humor in it. It's like, okay. If you think about it that way, it's kind of funny. And I just move on. Like I'm still going to believe what I believe. And everyone else is free to do so. But I find myself like looking at memes. I was like, oh, it's a bit on the edge. It would be fun to just put it out there. But, it's just like, pick your battles. Like I usually would think like, is the blowback or the risk of the blowback, is it worth this moment of fun? Because I don't know.
That's what makes it fun though, sometimes as well.
I know. And then, I don't know, because I think people think I'm a lot more serious than I am. And sometimes I do that because like when I'm functional, I just have to be in that space. It's like hyper focused. And so I come off as super serious. And that's why I like the smaller gigs, because I really do not give a shit. Really, it's just
Diazno is a comedian and
people come in and they're just like, I didn't realize you're so funny. And these are people who've known me like 2-3 years. And this is the first time they've come on stage. And when I do those small gigs, like it's like first 15 minutes, it's almost like a comedy session. I actually don't play a song for like the first 10, 15 minutes.
Put your tight 15 in and then do that.
Yeah, we just talk and laugh. And that's just how I like things to be. It's like at the last show, I had a friend who just like, come off heartbreak and just like talk about that, like a room full of strangers, like, oh, I'm sorry she left you. And all that, like, was it your fault? Or, just stuff like that. It's just, that's just me.
Yeah.
I often would find humor in like the silliest situation.
Yep.
And I think it's somewhat a Nigerian thing.
Right.
It's like we laugh about uncomfortable things, like something bad. Your phone falls and you crack your screen. I will just laugh.
I feel like roasting is something that even just like from watching interviews, especially like Afrobeats oriented stuff. Because I enjoy that as well, where people are like, "Oh, Nigerians will roast like
we will roast everything." I just feel like
cultural.
There is so much negativity around us that we just have to laugh about something.
It helps. We'll just lose our minds. But it really helps, actually. Like it really helps when you just laugh about like
we just find humor.
The most terrible things. We are laughing. We are having those.
I feel like it's similar with the Northern European sort of roasts of mental health, because everyone just deals with the winters here that are horrific.
Yeah, it's like
you
just have to find there's something funny about every situation, And like I think the key is knowing that these guys will be there for you.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not really
it's not actually mean.
It's not mean.
It's poking fun and being like, I know this is a negative thing, but I love you anyway.
Yeah. And after that, we're just gonna sit and eat from the same plate if we have to. Like, you can crash on my bed. It's just like I think it's the compensation, which is where I think, because I've had like European friends, like German friends, and they hear me talk and just like, does he actually mean half of what he's saying? And I see why they struggle. It's the lack of context. Like my friends from the other place, like they've seen us, like we're like brothers. Like, growing up, like lunchtime was just wherever you ended up at lunchtime. So there wasn't a like, oh, I'm coming over for lunch. We just had like groups and we just wandered. And whoever's house was closest at lunchtime, that's where we had lunch. So it wasn't like, and the parents didn't prepare for us. Like, oh, your friends are here. Okay, I'll whip up something for your friends. So it wasn't like we planned. So it was like there's this brotherhood or like sisterhood that happens, or just friendship. It's like a bit more. And so when we're roasting each other, it's like, yeah, he loves me. So it's a bit different than just someone you just met and just like laying on them. It's like,
the way you guys have talked about mental health, I feel like there's a big emphasis on community and how you can be there for people. And you've also both said that faith is very important to you. And at least for me, I'm not religious, but I grew up going to church occasionally, and definitely the community is the positivity that I saw in that. Do you feel like that's the connecting tissue of like the community around faith is what's important to you, or like what do you think makes it so important to you?
I think when it comes to faith, for me, the community is important, but definitely the belief is more important. The community is based off on what I believe. It's like, and I was speaking to someone yesterday, and with me and Diazno trying to do this thing, and we were trying to get this space, and someone said, "Oh, then these people are Christians," and I'm like, no, I have no expectations of them. I don't It's not because I think that they won't be able to support in that sense, but it's just there's also no pressure, to be honest. Right. So I think community is, especially like church community, for me, I've always built based off on relationships I have with each person. So that's a special thing that the faith has given me to have with people, which I also have with people outside the faith, to be honest. So like I can have just as good relationships with people in the faith and people who are not in the faith. So I think that's definitely not what has really helped like my faith in a sense. I think my faith is based off on the belief system and just how it has guided my life, and just how it has, provided for me, to be honest, because it's been real for me. Like I've been through things that I know that if I didn't have my faith, I would not have made it through, for sure.
In terms of, it felt like a tying on to hope, or?
Honestly, I feel like it's even beyond that. I don't think I have the words to explain
Right.
how, like how important my faith has been, but it's the essence of my life, basically. I think that's the essence of, that's cool, should be a song. But it is the essence of my life. Like there's nothing that I would do outside my faith, It's like a constant struggle to just be and become and to grow. But then I know like it's not, it's just who I am, I guess.
Yeah.
At this point of my life, I think it's just who I am, pretty much. Yeah. So
I think people often confuse faith for perfection. I don't really see it. I think that's sort of the mindset people come in. So the fact that I say I'm Christian means I think I'm perfect or better. Actually, for me, it's the opposite. It's like, okay, I feel like I am so imperfect that I need help on this. So that's usually where I draw a lot of strength from those moments where I'm just like, okay, like praying, like some of the most difficult times of my life, I have just literally done nothing but sit in quiet and pray. And I have received strength. I have received like stuff that I've prayed for. So for me, like faith is very, very personal, but it's also based on a lot of experience. And I'm talking of someone like, there was a time when I became agnostic after so I grew up Christian and all, moved to Berlin and had a lot of questions and stuff. So I've gone through all of that. So people also sometimes see faith as like, oh, he was born Christian. So I've not always been Christian. If you look at it like a follower of Christ, I haven't always been like that. There have been times when I've had questions and those questions were just like too big that I was like, okay, I don't think I believe. I don't even know what I believe anymore. And I've sorted through all of that. And I also see like the problems with Christianity and all in the past and how it's been implemented, negatives. I see all of that. And that's where for me it comes to like, in the end, it's still like a bunch of imperfect people who are just trying to find perfection. I think people are looking for that. People are looking for the same thing in different ways. And this is my way of like, hey, I've checked it all out and this is where I've landed. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. I really enjoyed the community. I think it's a big thing for me. I don't know if it's more, so Africa is a very, very communal society.
Yeah. Very.
Like there's this saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and you do feel like that. There are aunties and uncles who were not actually related when you actually, like, it felt like I could swear that they were my mom's sister. But that's how close we were. And then you find out like, hey, how do you actually know this person? It's like, oh, they were my neighbors in my old apartment. And they're like, how is she sleeping over here? Like in Berlin, you're not like asking your neighbor's child to sleep. There's just this connection that's so strong from like total strangers who are related in any way. So I don't know if it's more like a faith thing or if it's more just like growing up in an African context thing, my need for community.
Right.
I don't know if it's a faith thing or it's just that. And then obviously when you then have like faith in the African context, it's obviously very, very communal.
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen like in the European context, it's a bit less communal.
Yeah, less communal.
But then I think I find myself then gravitating towards like churches where there is a bit of community. In it. Like if I walked into a church and it felt cold, I don't know that I would feel super comfortable in it. But not necessarily because I thought like the pastor was saying something wrong or anything. It's just like, I just need community. So I don't know if I'm in the faith because of community or
in the community
if the community is, I don't really know, but I just know like I do end up needing community. And when I went through the worst period of my life was when I felt like I didn't have community anymore. My community had left for the first time. And that was the only time in my life when I'd felt that alone. And it just drove me crazy. Thinking about it. And I realized I'm like, oh, you actually do need community. Apple doesn't fall very far from the tree.
I mean, but there's also like the quality of community.
Yeah.
There's like, you can be in the midst of people and still feel alone. Very alone. Even in the Christian church setting, which is why I'm like sometimes, and I think like you said, it's I think maybe it's not, but it's an African thing where it's like you just have people around you, and it even gets to the point where you have friends, but you guys become so close. You get to the point like you want to introduce the person, but then you look at somebody else you call a friend, and you're like,
They're kind of like sister, brother.
And then you start saying, you start saying stuff like my brother, my cousin. We have this neighbors. We lived growing up, and then we became so close. At some point, their mom had to leave,
Mhm.
and then she moved back to the UK, and it was just normal. They all just moved into our apartment, and so we're like, I think 9 kids living in our apartment. And then by the time like we all grew up, everybody now it's just like, hey, my brother, hey, my sister. And when I met Diazno, and I would say it was my sister, Diazno's like, no, she's not your sister. But I'm like, she
really
is my
confusing,
sister.
actually.
Yeah.
But he was confused. Like, she actually is my sister. Like, I can't actually call her my friend because I have friends and I have acquaintances, and she's not on that level, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like, but these people, even though like it was Christian, we didn't really meet them in the context of church. They were just neighbors that just gravitated into becoming family, you know. So I feel like that's also like an African thing, which is why I said like, for me, it's not really just like the community in church, you know. It's not the reason why my faith can always get the same kind of community outside of church, but also in church, it's also something that's really nice because you sort of like help each other, sort of uphold each other in a sense. So
I feel like Northern European wide, I feel like it's very similar in the UK, where there's some community, but I definitely didn't have anything like that. And parts of my life where I do have someone like that, where it's like, this isn't family, but they are, and it's not like it's an international situation where it's like, oh, this is a friend from ages ago, this is from somewhere else with a different culture that maybe is more a driving force for that. But I don't know why maybe we don't have that. But anyway, thank you so much for
Thanks for
coming. It's
having
great
us.
talking.
thank you for having us.
Pleasure.
And good. Forever and a Day is out now.
Yeah.